All right, I'm doing the read.
Let's put another bear on the barbie.
Shut the fuck up. I'm doing the read.
Let's put a 5, 4, 3, 0.
Okay. All right. Hey, Cold Cans listeners. Commerce is king. Am I right or am I right? You're all online all the time these days, buying a bunch of shit off Amazon anyway. Why not buy your shit off Amazon and support the show in one foul swoop? Go to coldcanspodcast.com/Amazon and then buy all your stuff. We'll redirect you to Amazon, and anything you buy, a portion of the proceeds will go directly toward beer money for the Cold Cans Podcast. So that's coldcanspodcast.com/Amazon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Welcome to Cold Cans. Today, we're drinking a hefty IPA, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. We've heard a lot of complaints about how our beer has been shit so far. Mm-hmm. Nearly everything that we've drank has been rated, poor to awful?
Poor to awful. Light beers,
poor.
lagers.
So,
Sorry excuse for beer.
Nick, on his way to the studio, really outdid himself today. Picked up, what'd you pick up, Nick?
Hey, let me tell you about it, Joe. It is an American India Pale Ale, also known as an IPA. Mm-hmm. From the fine folks at Reuben's Brew.
Reuben's Brew, is that a local brewery here in Seattle?
A local brewery here in Seattle. They have a tasting room in the neighborhood of Ballard.
Yep.
And it's called Crikey
IPA. It is
6.8% alcohol by volume, 53 IBU for those counting at home.
Now, can you explain to the layman, and certainly I know what IBU is, so certainly just explain to the layman listener, not me,
layman,
what that is.
Time to enter the expert corner. In IBU, I think I do. It's a international bitterness unit.
Uh-huh.
I know nothing beyond that. I think it's just a rate, indicator of how bitter the beer is.
So it's not necessarily higher or lower the better. It just gives you an indication of what it is you're about to drink. It's not like a score.
No.
Okay.
It's not a subjective thing. It's literally how many. Here we go. IBU is an abbreviation for the International Bitterness Unit Scale, a gauge of beer's bitterness. What IBUs measure are the parts per million of isohumulone found in a beer.
Okay.
Isohumulone is the acid found in hops that gives beer its bitter bite.
Okay. Which is a very subjective quality, right? I mean, there's people, it seems like these days people are all over IPAs, at least out here in Seattle. It's a big deal in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Not everybody's into it. You were telling me you're not a huge IPA guy?
Hey, IPAs drive families apart, okay?
Okay, well, how so?
Hatfields and McCoys you've heard of? How about IPAs versus non-IPAs?
It's as polar opposite dichotomy that made careers like Skip Bayless and Donald Trump possible.
Yeah, it is. My history with IPAs is that they always affect my allergies. They would always make me sneeze or make it harder to breathe.
You probably are allergic to something.
Right. So I'm allergic to hops in some way, or I was at one point. Similar to cats in my life. When I was a young lad, I was allergic to cats, hated them, couldn't stand them.
And you shed that allergy.
And I shed that allergy as I grew into be a very virile man.
Okay, let's tone it down.
From nubile boy
They're
to
just trying to drive to work.
Now this is not affecting me. That's
so
the moral of that story.
See, for me, and this is what makes...
Can't get enough of this stuff.
It makes beer such a subjective thing, almost differing from wine in that way, but for me, I had never had a reaction to IPAs. I really enjoy a good IPA because it's just full of flavor, and I always go by the IBU scale when I judge my beers. But when I drink
the IBUs, please.
When I drink a heavily wheat-infused beer, if I drink even like a Blue Moon or something like that, any type of wheat beer, I'll get, I can't handle it.
Affects the gut or affects your sinuses?
It affects the gut. So I don't think I'm having an allergic reaction, but my body just,
yeah.
Maybe that is an allergic reaction, but my body just rejects it. IPAs always goes down smooth. I can drink IPA as smooth as I could drink any beer.
Any lager
it doesn't
too?
It's not like a chore to drink it. Chores don't have to necessarily mean a bad thing. There's plenty of wine that I kind of try to appreciate, and there's a whole thing there. With beer, IPAs go down smooth, and it's just pure enjoyment. I'm not really dissecting it too much.
Man, this episode might go down the gut health route. It sounds like we're talking about that a lot here.
Are we going to talk pseudoscience in this podcast?
No, we'll do kombucha later on. Everyone come back for our kombucha cold cans. But IPAs always did that to my stomach in the past too. It would just I wouldn't feel good for days after I would drink one.
I feel like beer does have that subjectivity to it. Again, like wine, you see these wine connoisseurs that people sort of appreciate it in almost an objective way. This is a 1946 Bordeaux, whatever, blah blah blah, and therefore it's universally good. Beer, you have a little bit of that, but like people just react to beer. There's a big variance in people's reactions to differing levels of beer. Like some people can't handle a stout. It tastes like someone accidentally drank like a bowl of spitter juice or whatever from Chew.
But you're chewing it.
But yeah, IPAs, wheat beer, stuff like that. I think the thing that draws people, at least around here, to IPAs and probably everywhere, is that they tend to be not a mass market beer. It tends to be something from like a microbrewery or just at the very least local. And it always feels good to sort of support your local brewery.
And the more local it is, feels like it has more flavor, which I think is a big draw of IPAs. That's what everyone always says, and they're like, "Oh, I love IPAs."
Right.
And they do have a lot of flavor to them. Like they have the hops, they have the like flowery, aroma to them.
Sure.
So I can respect that, but I never really enjoyed it before. But I think that's what draws people towards it is the like high amount of flavor you get.
Yeah, and the smaller the brewery, the more you can sort of tinker with every batch, and you don't have to worry about consistency across the mass production. We talked a lot about mass-produced beer. The first few episodes, Miller Lite was our pilot episode. And but like when you're
the beer of the people.
When you're making a fraction of the volume, you have greater control and a tighter knit grip on what it is you're putting into the beer. And
you got to have that knit grip. I've always said that.
Tighter knit grip.
What is a knit grip?
I meant a tighter knitted grip.
Okay.
But I like what you said about buying local. It almost just appears to have more flavor. If it just generally feels good across most walks of life to buy something local, you kind of feel like you're part of the community. You're keeping your community unique. You're rewarding somebody who is experimenting with flavor.
Yeah. You have a stake in the place you are. Like you care so much more about it if you can go down to the brewery or like the tasting room that this Reuben's Brews has.
Right.
And you see the people who are actually making this beer.
Service.
Yeah. You are in the building where this beer is being brewed. And so you can actually see it like ground level stuff and you feel connected to that, I think, in a way.
Yeah. And you're supporting these people's jobs that I think pretty much universally people consider to be like a standard that people would achieve to get to. Is like I've kind of started my own little brewery.
Yeah.
It's the American
dream.
Yeah,
a noble job.
Pulled
noble
myself
occupation.
up from the bootstraps. I'm doing a local thing. I have not a huge interest in expanding.
Mm-hmm. I gripped my knits and I made it happen right here, local.
And and it feels good to support that because I think everybody kind of thinks in the back of their mind, I'd like to do something like this someday, and make a dent in something, big fish in a small pond, rather than try to go for broke and make $1 billion. And it's this interesting relationship between globalization and not xenophobia, not anything that's like toxic, but just supporting from within.
Right, like taking care of your like own like your
but
own
the two
place
can coexist.
More so than
you can have a welcoming place that
Right.
brings other people in, but also take care of where you live.
Exactly.
Don't shit where you eat. And with globalization is a welcomed. I think it's viewed, especially in the light of the recent 2016 election, it's viewed as one or the other. You pick a fucking side.
Right.
We either love them or we hate them.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be. You can take pride in your community and also welcome other people into the community to enjoy your little niche that you've carved out.
Right, because you should have pride in your place enough to, like want to show it to others or like bring people into that fold. I think.
Yeah, what are you ashamed of?
Yeah, too often it comes off as like if we let these people in, they're going to change what we're about. And that's that's kind of a toxic pride to have.
Yes.
Of wanting something to not change, so you're not allowing others to enjoy it.
Is that such a bad thing if they did come in and change what it is you value? Because you would just value, your values would change. And
right.
B,
if it's
not necessarily what they want to do.
Right.
It's an insane
Everyone doesn't want to be a disturbance to the places they're coming into. Like, there's a reason they want to come to your place. It's not to take it over and make it what's home to them. They like what you're doing.
Exactly. And they want to be sort of this welcomed guest. I mean, we've both moved before, and we're not necessarily immigrants. We've just moved domestically. But even so, when you move somewhere new, it's not a normal first reaction to say, I own this fucking joint as you walk in. You hit the first person you see on the street, and you're like, I'm the kid in town, and you flip your collar. You go in and you go, I feel like a guest here in a strange place, and I'm going to do what I can to sort of embrace this culture, take that into myself, and then also, let this culture know what I have to offer. I think that's most people's attitude. But the fear, like you just said, is that they're going to come in and they're going to fuck everything up. And that's sad.
This paradise I've created for myself, they're going to mess it up.
They're going to fuck it up.
Yeah. It's everything I've ever known. They're going to take it away from me.
And I guess kind of trying to bring this back to beer a little bit.
This went down a different road than I thought it was going at first.
Well, bringing it back to beer a bit, when you're talking about supporting a microbrewery, another thing that feels good is that it truly is sort of it's a capitalism. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. You really are impacting the bottom line of this company. Like you said, you're kind of a stockholder. So if you don't go in and buy beer, you and your community, that place is going to fold. You can kind of reject it. And if you go in and they treat you like shit and their beer doesn't taste good, it will fold and it's gone. You want to support it if it's good. So you're kind of buying what you want to buy, not what the world tells you to buy. These people aren't taking ads out in the Super Bowl. Right. So you're not being brainwashed and you say, okay, I got to have a Bud Light because then I can't have fun.
That's another thing about the local aspect is accountability. Like you said, if they don't make a consistently good product and make it a place you want to come back to time and time again, they will fold because they don't have all these other states and all these other countries that could prop them up if they're not producing an enjoyable experience time and time again.
And in a lot of ways, again, that these mass market beers and I guess any product, but specifically talking about beer, if they're fucking up taste, if they're fucking up customer service, if they're fucking up customer demand, they can hide it based on the giant stockpile of money and funding they have that they can pour into marketing or other means.
Exactly.
You can lipstick the pig a little bit and just say, look, this thing is fine and we're gonna float on this for another decade because we can afford it. Whereas these people just don't, and they put the little wooden board sign in the sidewalk in front of their tasting room that says, come on in, there's a happy hour, and that's it. And that's kind of what they have. And they make a nice website, as Reuben's Brews does, by the way. Everybody
they do a very nice website.
Check out reubensbrews.com if you're in the area.
While we're talking website, let's kind of read the backstory of it.
Sure.
Right off their website, it says, meet our small brewery. After the birth of their first child, Reuben, Adam and Grace embarked on a mission to brew bloody good beer. Originally from the UK. Bloody good beer. That was Australian. I messed it up. Okay.
I don't know what mine was.
Originally from the UK, Adam turned a passionate hobby into a family-run brewery, crafting nationally and internationally recognized beers in a wide variety of styles. Since opening in 2012, Reuben's has won awards for its beers around the world, including at the Great American Beer Festival, the World Beer Cup, the U.S. Open, and was named Midsize Brewery of the Year at the 2015 Washington Beer Awards.
And won awards it has. You just mentioned a few. The specific Crikey IPA that we're drinking has won the 2015 USBTC Best IPA in the Pacific Northwest. It won 2015 Best of Craft Beer Awards, a silver award there, and that seems to be national. The 2014 World Beer Championships, it won gold. Draft Magazine gave it 94 points, and Beer Advocate gives it 91 points as of July 2015. Our old friends at Beer Advocate are actually suggesting that we're drinking a pretty damn good beer.
Yeah.
So
they sign off on this one episode of Cold Cans.
And just to give our listeners an idea of what we're drinking, Crikey IPA focuses on the hop profile on tropical fruit, juicy citrus, and pine. Usually that would turn me off, but this is a smooth. It's not heavy on tropical fruit or juicy citrus.
No.
It makes the IPA stand out. The brew's focused on hop flavor and aroma with the malt backbone supporting role. I think the latter is more what I get the sense. I don't get the tropical fruit juicy citrus as much. 53 as an IBU seems to be higher than any other beer. Nope, not higher than any other beer they have. They have the Roasted Rye IPA, which is 80 plus. Ooh. They just stopped fucking counting at 80. And the Imperial IPA is also 80 plus. So they have some potent beers down there at Reuben's Brews, or up there in Ballard. Free Ballard.
Free Ballard. Keep Ballard free.
So
keep out outsiders. That's what Ballard says. Tie it back in.
Yeah.
So it is kind of interesting, though, that the founders of this are from the UK originally, too. That kind of sort of ties into what we were talking about before.
Sure. Came here, embraced a culture of beer, and started brewing their own beer.
And it even says further down, Adam, who was the co-founder and brewmaster, said he was blown away by the diversity and quality of the brews in the Pacific Northwest. And he just kind of turned his passion of home brewing into it.
That's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
It's almost like we planned it.
we didn't. We didn't plan that. Yeah, I think the only other thing I sort of was thinking about with regards to locality and responsibility as we were talking about that, and we do not have to dive, nor do we have the time to dive into a political discourse around in cold cans. But I was thinking about the fact that the accountability thing you mentioned, when we're voting in politics, we tend to more accurately, I think, vote local representatives because we know what's going on in our local communities. So we can vote our congressmen at a better, we know what they stand for because they say, I want to build that bridge that's going to cost a bunch of taxpayer money, or the other guy says that they don't. And you know what that means. Mm-hmm. Whereas voting at the federal level, it's like, well, we're going to change discussions with Iran, and we're going to put a different nuclear code in. Nobody knows what any of that, the impact is. So then that turns into, again, to draw the parallel of what I was talking about before, it turns into that mass market brainwash. That's the Miller Lite of voting for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, because it's just whatever I get sort of brainwashed into thinking, because I can't at all understand the nuance.
We don't have the time or the means to understand.
Right. I'm not an expert in foreign policy and national affairs. Whereas my locale, again, it comes down to, are you going to fix the potholes or build the bridge that's going to cost a bunch of money? And I can understand. And putting your support that way, I think there's a lot of parallel, and it's why it feels so good to buy local. And it's the argument for, instead of a true democracy like we have, for doing something like a republic, where you vote your local constituents and then they vote because they have a higher understanding. They do spend their life looking at foreign policy. They vote for who the president is. And it's still who you're voting for who's casting a vote for you.
We have a representative democracy.
Sure, with the Senate, but we still elect the president who has checks and balances.
Right.
We've gone completely off the rails here, folks.
Technically, we vote for our electors to vote the president in.
Well,
so people don't technically vote.
Nobody even knows about the electors. That's just basically the closest thing to our republic is our Senate. Anyway, Reuben's Brews makes a delicious Crikey IPA.
It is good.
It's good.
Let's get to the rankings,
local.
Joe.
Let's rank. Where are we at with our rankings?
Let me read them off real quick. Top of the board. We're going to start at the top. Kona Longboard is reign supreme. Then Rainier, Iyengar, Molson. Nope, that's not right. Iyengar, and then Rolling Rock.
Yep.
Then Molson, then Miller Lite, then Olympia, and then Smirnoff Ice at the bottom.
Okay, so I'm putting this ahead of Smirnoff, Olympia, Miller Lite, and Molson, and Rolling Rock. It's just,
yes, I agree.
You're good at that?
I agree. We started off, I told you before the show, I don't like IPAs, but then I actually started drinking this thing.
There's some value in it swaying you.
Yeah.
And I enjoy this
thing
right out of the
These
gates.
rankings are so subjective and in the moment. I can't even remember what any of these other beers taste like.
Yeah, we did this weeks ago. Iyengar Brauweiss I enjoyed, but it just doesn't agree with me particularly well. I think it's... hopefully Rubens doesn't take offense if they ever hear this, that we're drinking this out of clearly what is a red plastic solo cup. Iyengar Brauweiss, not my kind of beer. I think there's, again, a technicality to it that's supposed to be appreciated, but I don't have it. So now we're up to...
What?
Well, like this was a highly rated beer that went through...
Oh, sure.
it's again these experts. We had talked about it in that episode.
Right.
People appreciate it at a technical level, and it seemed like we missed the enjoyment of it. I enjoy drinking this, and also appreciated it at an IBU level, statistical analysis level. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting it above Eyinger. What do you think?
I agree with that. Now Rainier and Kona Longboard still sit above it.
So it's better than Rainier. I like it better than Rainier.
Let's talk about the drinkability, though. Like, you could put down 12 Rainiers at a happy hour.
Yes.
You could probably only put down like 2 of these.
Okay, so in terms of drinkability or...
remember, efficiency and drunkenness is part of our ranking
I'll make
system.
an argument about IPA for efficiency. I know personally I can put down 2 of these, sure, not 12. And if I drink... I feel it off of the 3/4 of a red Solo
it's
cup I've drank so far.
6.8% alcohol.
You want to talk efficiency, it's here. And it's better, in my opinion. It's a better taste. And it also, Rainier, I think that we rated it this high because of our memories and our association with it and the brand it has in the area. But if you're going to argue about locality in the area, this one's got that beat.
I want to bring in price
Kona.
At all?
How much was this bad
price?
boy?
A pint was $5.99 at my local QFC.
That's not bad. That's pretty expensive.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's almost like buying it in a bar. So yeah, if you're bringing price into it, I put it above Rainier, but I don't put it above Kona. Kona's smooth. That's drinkable. That has this beat.
All right, as long as my sweet baby boy Kona is protected here, I'm okay putting it above
Rainier?
I'm okay with that.
Wow, so we have a number 2. We couldn't quite usurp your baby boy, and my baby boy too. I love
both of
Kona
our beautiful
Longboard.
baby boys.
Okay, so we're saying that the Crikey IPA out of Rubens Brews in Ballard, Seattle, is our new
number
2 beer in the top 100 beers of all time. I feel comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that, and I'm even more comfortable in our discussion about buying local and its importance. And that's why I'm going to go to coldcanspodcast.com/Amazon
Jesus Christ.
to make some purchases at a local establishment, support local, and get my beak wet a little bit too. The Cold Cans podcast is recorded in the Overcast room at Cloud Studios in Seattle, Washington. Visit cloudstudiosseattle.com